Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, February 17th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Dan Rubin in just a moment. And we're not taking President's Day off. Happy President's Day, but Dan and I are not taking President's Day off. But a lot to get into. The transfer portal does not open. The next window does not open for another almost 2 months. Almost exactly 2 months from it's April 16th through April 25th. So it's a 10-day window. So we have barely about 2 months till the portal opens. And I'm curious, we're not going to talk about like specific names. We don't even know who's going to be in the next transfer portal, but like, what are some positions Ohio State might target in the next window? They've already done a really good job in the portal for their 2025 roster. It almost got glossed over because it happened during the middle of a magical national championship run. So Dan and I are going to go back and talk about some of the guys they already got, take a look at some positions we think they might need to look at. Although nothing is in dire straits. It's like depth pieces is all I think they would probably need. And we'll go back over some of the coaching hires. It's been rapid succession, and I find it interesting how Ohio State fans and even Ohio State media seem very split on Matt Patricia. I personally like the hire a lot, and we'll get into why. I'm curious what Dan thinks, and it's just an interesting dynamic with people, I don't know, of like minds not agreeing on the Matt Patricia hire. I think we all can agree we want it to work, though. And we all can agree that Mando is awesome. Highly recommend Mando. I've told you guys about it. I'm not just reading their ads. They have a customer in me for sure. Mando is America's #1 whole body deodorant for men, and I highly recommend it to you guys. If you've been using the same deodorant for years like I was, many years, it might be time to try something new and better, and that is where Mando comes into play. It's America's #1 whole body deodorant, and now you can find the products at Walmart, Target, and other retails across our great country. But for the best deals, still go to shopmando.com. Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant. That's what this is. I love the Pro Sport scent. Cream tube deodorant. Comes with 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code of Bucknuts. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. All right. I'm smelling good. I know Dan Rubin's smelling good. All the way down in the Gem City, smelling good with that foundation shirt on. How you doing on a Monday, sir?
Cannot hurt to pump the foundation. Thank you again to JT and Jack and those guys for coming back. But yes, good Monday.
Start with Mrs. Sanchez. Hello, D. Hello, Mrs. Sanchez. All right, so portal. It's interesting. They've already done a really good job. Like, I think Ethan Onionwa might be the best like transfer. I'm not really being hyperbolic here. I think he might be my favorite transfer acquisition in the entire country for any team. I'm a little biased. You get a guy coming in that's going to be your left tackle that could be a second-round pick in this year's draft. It's too bad he's not big, though, Dan. 6'6", 345 pounds. He's the young man they're getting from Rice. I love the tight end they're getting from Purdue, Max Clare. This guy was a weapon for Purdue, and they didn't have weapons. Everybody knew he was really their only offensive weapon. He was still really good. I really like the big running back, C.J. Donaldson, they got from West Virginia. Phillip Daniels is going to compete at right tackle. I don't think he's by any means a lock to start, but I like getting him. I like the defensive end they got, Logan George from Idaho State. He'll be a good guy off the bench, backing up guys like Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. They also got another depth piece I almost forgot about, linebacker Ty Howard. They've already done a good job. They've got 6 guys, and it's funny, man. Do you kind of agree? We kind of not us like necessarily at Bucknuts. We kind of glossed over it because all of this happened while they were going through the national championship run.
Yeah, I don't think, the transfer portal this past time around was quite as sexy as it was the first time around. I mean, just look at who we added in that. And that was a star-studded group. But that was also, I think, reflective of this kind of the first time the portal had opened up in earnest like that. So everyone got to roll. I love what they did. I mean, everyone knew they were going to have to go into the portal for the offensive line. This past season was a testament to depth along the offensive line, and certainly a sign that you never can have enough. You mentioned Onyanwa. I'll kind of back up what you said there. We say this every time, depends on what you think of PFF, but gave up 1 sack. The offensive line at Rice was, I think, top 15. He's got experience starting at right tackle and left tackle. That's great. Max Clare is a huge pickup for a variety of reasons. If you look at the all Big Ten, tight end was good in the Big Ten. Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, third team all Big Ten. Max Clare probably produced best offensive player, and a Cincy native who went and prepped elsewhere and came back here, which I love that approach in the transfer portal. Guys who maybe were not ready to produce for Ohio State early, go get some snaps on someone else's dime, come back and thrive with the Scarlet and Gray. That is a tremendous approach. Same approach for Phillip Daniels with Minnesota. Like you said, a little bit more of a project maybe, but has all the measurables. I think they've done a really good job. I think the next rotation, the next opening is going to be more about, I think, filling gaps in terms of doomsday. You know what I'm saying? Setting up the roster. If worst case scenario happened and we had to go here, maybe a Gunnar Hoke style, Chugginoff style QB, maybe. And then you're looking at depth along all of the spots. If you really look at it, I don't think, and I was going to ask you this, do you think they're going to be able to or need to go in to the portal and get a full-time starter?
No.
I don't think they're in that position right now. So I always want my NFL team, and they rarely do it, but you always want to come out of free agency feeling like you could play a game the next day. And then you go into the draft and you kind of supplement. You don't want to go into the draft and be like, if we don't get a left tackle in the first 2 rounds, we're screwed, right? Because guess what? There might not be a left tackle in the first 2 rounds that fits. So I feel like Ohio State's covered all their bases. And really now it's either can you improve? Does someone retire? I mean, anyone who planned Caleb Downs into the secondary before Saban retired should be living in Vegas. So got to deal with what comes up. But generally speaking, I think the roster is fortified to the point where there's no desperation, which is great.
They've done a fantastic job. Mark Pantoni and his staff. Again, Onyanwa is my favorite, but Claire, I love their situation at tight end, despite losing G. Scott, who had a great year, and I love G. Scott and his family. So I thought that was cool too. But I'm just, from Ohio State's perspective, G. Scott had a really good year as the starter. But Kazmarek really impressed me as a blocker, and even I think he can be a decent receiver as well. He's a tough guy, really good blocker, and he's going to be coming back as a 5th-year senior. You got him and Max Clare and Jelani Thurman, who has more talent than anybody. They got a good situation there. Bennett Christian played a decent amount. They've got some other young tight ends. So I really like what they've done in the portal already. And you're right, man. The Bengals are the same way. They do this every year. They go into the draft knowing there's at least a couple of positions they have to get. That guys that they're going to be counting on as rookies.
Doesn't work.
It's bad business. Yeah, how's that worked out for them? Oh,
it can work.
We'll let Jesse Bates walk. We'll just replace him with Dax Hill. I remember. I don't need to get into it. I knew from the jump that was a terrible pick, Dax Hill in the first round. Anyway, you made a great point. Now they can just sit around and get depth pieces. Quarterback's a great example. And they don't even have to get one, but Ryan Day has said many times, Dan, he wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks, and right now he's got 3. And I love that Keenholz is sticking around. I think it's going to be Julian Sand. I know I'm not breaking the news there. I'd be shocked if it's not, and I think he's going to be good. I love that Keenholz is sticking around and Tavian St. Clair's coming in. That's a good 1, 2, 3 right there. Really good. I think they'll get a depth piece because just like as you articulated, he's already done this multiple times with Chugs, with Tristan Gebbia, and Gunnar Hoke. So I think they'll get a depth piece. The one that I really have circled here, they don't need any starters to answer your question. I agree with that. Defensive tackle, I think they need a guy that can at least be a rotation piece. What Hero Kanu would have been if Hero Kanu stayed here. Unless you say, no, Jason Moore's going to be that. Will Smith Jr. is going to be that. Eric Mentz is going to be that. We got 3 D tackles coming in as true freshmen. One of those guys is going to be. So maybe they think, no, we don't need a D tackle.
So you're saying Caden McDonald and Edric Houston are your starters, correct?
That's absolutely correct, and I love that. Especially when you're replacing all 4 starting defensive linemen, and all 4 of them were really, really, really good. I mean, you can say Ty Hamilton wasn't really, really, really good, but he was really good. And you're replacing them with Caden McDonald, Edric Houston, Kenyatta Jackson, and Caden Curry. That's good business. I just don't like the depth at D tackle. Whereas coming into this national championship season, I was saying, I love the depth at D tackle. I was wrong about Jason Moore. I thought he'd play a lot, but I was right about Caden McDonald. I said, this guy's going to be a force, and he was. Look at some of those goal line stands. Caden McDonald was in there throwing dudes around. So I'm excited about him and Edric Houston. But I feel like the depth is not where it needs to be.
Not just the depth, but there's not a ton of experience just as starters up front. Edric's only going to be in his second college season, so that's only maximum, 18 months in the weight room. So, and he's really kind of a converted defensive end anyway. You probably want another guy in there who weighs over 310 pounds, hopefully, or something, you know what I'm saying? Someone who can, one technique who can really plug it. I was incorrect on the growth of Jason Moore. I really thought this was going to be his breakout year. Pedigree-wise, I'm telling you, he was DC Player of the Year from DeMatha, defensive tackle. That's Chase Young pedigree type. I'm not saying he'll be that, but we need him. He's one of the players that if you're looking at the team and saying, oh, how could they be great again? If the light comes on for Jason Moore, that would be big time.
And real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Larry Johnson, as you know, it was last spring, told us Jason Moore is the ideal 3 tech in our defense. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he's going to play a lot this year, right?
Yeah.
Larry Johnson's calling him the idea. Now, obviously, he didn't mean like right now, this very second. And we got to keep in mind, Jason Moore's just going to be entering his 3rd-year sophomore season. Like, he's still a young pup and still probably growing into that big frame. He's 6'6", 305 pounds. It's a big kid. So you're right, man. With what Larry Johnson said about him last spring, now that the opportunity is there, he could be the guy that we're talking about, that number 1 D tackle off the bench. That'd be huge for this team.
It would be tremendous. And he's a little bit bigger than Houston. I don't know. I'm interested. The defensive line to me is very interesting. I love the guys they have up front from a backup standpoint. I have a little bit of a fear of Caden Curry's size. I watched him a little bit this year. He's not as big as some of the other dudes. Now, energy-wise and motor-wise, he's off the charts. He's got enough for 2 guys.
Strength-wise, too. He's
but I mean, it's a girth thing. But I'm sure he'll take care of that between now and then. And that's a guy that he and Jackson, the stick-to-itiveness of those two. In a lot of programs, those guys would have boogied.
Yep.
Right when JT and they went to help them move out of their dorm room. They're like, we're staying. It's like, I'm leaving. Yeah. So Kenyatta Jackson to me is really interesting because if he could take that next step, I always thought he was like almost a tick away from being like a guy who could be the guy. If he could step into that, double-digit sack guy you have to game plan for every game, that would be big for Kenyatta. And big for the team, but also I think there's going to be a lot of snaps out there that you didn't see from guys. So there's a much better chance this year that guys come out of nowhere than last year. Last year, there was really not a lot of snaps available, no matter how good you were. This year, who's hungry? Whoever's hungry is going to get to eat.
Yeah, there's Oni Onwa is listed as a 4-star transfer, and it's like, how can he be if he's going to would have been a 2nd-round pick? How is he only a 4-star transfer? It's like I think he's a 5-star transfer. I don't know how. If you're telling me, okay, the Buckeyes need a left tackle. Okay, there's this kid at Rice who is Tom Luganbill was just apoplectic that he didn't go pro. He's like, this kid would be a 2nd-round pick this year. I can't believe he didn't declare. You're telling me we could get a kid that's and played really. I know Rice is a smaller school, but still Division I. Played really, really well, as you said earlier, Dan. 6'6", 345, smart, very smart. His offers coming out of not his offers, the schools he considered coming out of high school, Ivy League and Rice. Very smart. It's like perfect. To me, that's like a 5-star transfer right there. And I'm telling you, this tight end they're getting from Purdue is legit too. He's another one of those kids that like played high school football in Ohio, went and developed at Purdue, and now we're bringing him here to Columbus for the All-Star team. So, yeah.
Onionwa, I was equally perplexed at the rankings. I know that Isaiah World is ranked really high from Nevada, and they were interested in him. My only guess could be is that he's only coming for 1 year, and they give more value to guys who be 2-year transfers. But transfer rankings maybe haven't caught up to recruiting rankings, or everything else is kind of on the nascent stages of that. And Max Clare, like you mentioned, I saw one preseason All-American team that has him on there. So for the Buckeyes, so hopes are really high. And it hasn't been so here, but in a lot of systems, the tight end is a security blanket for a young quarterback. Considering you're going to have a new quarterback next year, a dependable tight end up the middle is always something nice to rely on.
Before we move on, the last position that I jotted down here that they could use a depth piece is safety. Then again, they've got guys that are listed as corners that could play safety. Like, for example, like if Lorenzo Styles Jr. does not win the starting slot corner or slot safety, however you want to look at that, he could play safety. They've got Jermaine Matthews could play safety if they wanted him to. But I see a little bit of a depth situation in safety. It's good business when you have Caleb Downs as back as one of your starters. But then, and I like Jalen McClain a lot, and I like Malik Hartford. I think those guys are going to have a good battle to be that other starter. And then whoever loses that battle, then you got good depth. He's that number 3 safety. Who's the number 4 safety? Could be one of the freshmen.
Yeah, and that's one of those positions you'd like to have experience back there. I mean, Jordan Hancock really played safety for them a lot of the time. If you really go by the way the system worked out, I could see that. And they've had a tendency to go late in the portal and grab kind of older defensive backs too. So, like you said, I could see
Fahim.
Yeah, I could see.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, Fahim.
Fahim Delane played a very high level in high school. WCAC kid. I'm biased. But he's a stud. But he's a stud. I mean, that's as good as you can get. And I've told he's a very cerebral kid too, so he'll probably pick it up quickly. I would imagine also the transfer portal, like I said, largely depends on who's going to be available. You know what I mean? If there's a safety in there that fits, sure. But if you look at the portal right now, slim pickings. So we got to see what new names go in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm getting ahead of myself, but hey, I saw that. I was like, when's the next portal open? And it said April 16th through the 25th. By the way, that coincides perfectly with the end. So Ohio State finishes spring ball. Yeah. Boom. The next portal open. So it's not like they're going to be doing 2 things at once. Not that they couldn't pull it off. Hence them doing a good job in the portal while going through their national championship run. So I'm glad we ran back through that because I feel like we're just, me personally, I won't speak for I wasn't talking enough about Onionwa. We've talked about him on the show. Yep. Blair and these guys. Donaldson was a good get. I think I'm excited about the running back room. When you lose 2 stud running backs and you don't feel like it's going to be a weakness the next year, that's good. Because I think, certainly in my time watching Ohio State football, Travion and Quinshawn are the best 1-2 punch we've had. And I don't say that lightly because there's been some really, really, really good ones. Tim May told me a funny story when we were down in Atlanta. He said, well, one time, John, it was John Wolf. Who was someone in the comments will remember this. The guy that was with Keith, the other running back with Keith Byers. John was it Wolf? Oh gosh, I can't think of it now. It wasn't Workman. Someone will remember it. So anyway, this guy was telling Tim May that he thinks the best 1-2 running back was him and Keith Byers. And Tim May said, well, I mean, yeah, but like 95% of that was Keith.
He said it to the guy?
He did. Tim May's hilarious. Like he's the type of guy that can like just talk crap to you, and it's funny because he doesn't mean anything by it. Gosh, I'll think of it. It's like WOOL. Wool. Anyway, I thought that was a really funny story. Woolridge. There we go. Woolridge. John Woolridge.
Barry Bowman.
I knew one of you guys would know. Thank you, Barry Bowman. So yeah, Woolridge goes up to Tim May. He was talking about best. Tim was doing a story. I think it was Beanie Wells and Pittman, another great 1-2 punch. And he was doing a story about the best 1-2 punches at running back. Obviously, Archie and Pete were number one. And Woolridge said, don't forget about me and Keith. Me and Keith should be up there too. And he was like, well, yeah, but Keith was 95% of that.
Dave, what do you make?
Myers was awesome.
What do you make of Henderson being a higher rated draft prospect than Judkins?
I think people saw the chunk plays in the playoffs and their eyes got really big. And I think those of us that see them play every day, if we had to take the Bengals, have Chase Brown, but they might take another. They needed a second running back. So my Bengals need a running back in the second round. This is nothing against Trey. I love Trey. I would take Quinshawn over Trey. Just because if you said before, Dan, I agree with this. He's more durable, Quinshawn is. He's bigger. He's more of that typical NFL rugged running back, whereas Trey's more of a guy that I don't want to call him a poor man's Jahmyr Gibbs. He's not going to be as good as Gibbs, but he's going to be good. It's almost one of those things, man, you probably can't go wrong either way, and it probably depends on what you need. You already have a bruiser. You need a guy that you can – and the good thing about Trey is you're not just putting him in there as a scat back. He'll knock a linebacker on his butt in pass pro. So that's helping him too. It's splitting hairs to a certain degree, but I would take Quinshawn over Trey. Probably, yeah.
Well, my team is going to take a running back, so this has been a major topic of conversation for the draft show that I listen to, and I would agree with you. They have Henderson rated higher. My thing is, and it's funny, one of the things they keep going back to is the fact that Judkins got caught on that run, and that Henderson doesn't get caught.
Yeah,
and that's great. Now, pro football does not look like that. Jahmyr Gibbs and those guys who go on those long, that is not a realistic expectation. You need the guy who's going to get you, if there's 3, he gets you 6. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My favorite thing in the world is 2nd and 2. So that's Judkins to me. And I told you this last year, Dave. This is why I thought last year was like some kind of Truman Show experience in a lot of ways. I wanted Judkins for the Cowboys last year, and he was a sophomore. And then he came to the Buckeyes, which was incredible. So I just found that very interesting. It is really interesting to listen to draft coverage when they're from unbiased people, and they talk about the Buckeyes. And there's a lot of talk about it because there's a lot of dudes. I'll tell you who's rising, shocker, Donovan Jackson.
Oh, yeah. And Big Willie style, as I call him. Big Willie
Donovan
style.
Jackson's move to left tackle.
Oh, yeah.
And his versatility. There's teams saying, he could play tackle for us now. Anyway, I mean, he has solidified himself draft-wise, where I don't think he's going to get out of the second round.
I don't think I'm speaking to anybody even that's listening to the show. I think everybody knows this, but people focus too much on height when it comes to offensive tackles. It should be wingspan. And what does Donovan Jackson have? He's got freakishly long arms. He's got 36-inch arms. Okay, so he's got the arms of like a typical 6'7" offensive lineman. Okay, so I think people focus, he's only 6'4". Okay, but if he was 6'4" with alligator arms, okay. How about he's 6'4" with 36-inch arms? Yeah, man, he made himself a lot of money. He's a great kid from a great family. They all are. It's amazing. These kids, young men are such high-quality young men, and they're national champions. It's really
we knew it, though, Dave. I'm telling you, that foundation party this year was so different than the year before. I came out, I'm like, I'm overly geeked. And it turns out we were right.
We were, and that we weren't sitting there wondering oh gosh, the quarterback looks like he's a wallflower, we were the previous year. Is he looks like he's scared to be here, and he's Ohio State's starting quarterback. And then this year, Will Howard comes in there and is just like the president of the United States walking in there. I was like, okay, this is what the starting quarterback at Ohio State, how he should carry himself at an event like this with all these high hitters there, heavy hitters. Will Howard walked in there like he owned the place.
This is good, and he's not a dick.
That's what I mean, though. Yeah, walked in like he owns the place. But
no, but I mean that. You can be a quarterback, and I want to walk away and be like, that guy thinks he's – I played with one in high school. He's the guy that if you're the fastest guy in the team in warm-ups, he overthrows you to show the crowd. Look at my arm. It's like, dude, I'm the fastest guy. Don't effing overthrow me. But Will has that ability, and I thought it was shown. I had someone tell me this when he was yelling in Jack Sawyer's face after that play. That would look inauthentic from a lot of guys. He's just a man of the people. And some NFL team's going to be very lucky to get him. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. All right, I gotta sneak this in here. Not sneak it in. That's not the way I want to introduce my friends over at Factor. I love Factor. By the way, I'm seeing their trucks more and more. Really, they're these nice vans that they have that they deliver the Factor meals to. It's such a great product. If you guys have not tried Factor, if you ever make microwave meals and you're not trying Factor, you've got to try Factor. High quality, great tasting, never frozen, always fresh, ready in 2 minutes because they're never frozen. They come to your door, you put them in your fridge, pop them in your microwave. 2 minutes, they're ready. So no prep, no mess when you're done. Don't you hate that? You make a nice meal and then now you got to clean it up, right? None of that. 2 minutes, and it's high quality stuff, and it's healthy. I don't even realize it's healthy because it tastes so good. I like the filet mignon. They've got all these chicken dishes that I like. They've got smoothies, and you guys can get an absolute great deal. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. It's really good. 50% off plus free shipping. That's code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. I'm helping spread the word, not just to you guys. I told you guys I have a friend at the radio station that I moonlight for, was always making these old school microwave meals from the 1980s. I think he might have actually bought them in the 1980s. And now he loves Factor. It's exponentially better. Factor is in these microwave meals that we grew up on. Anyway, Patricia hire happened because Pat and I did an emergency podcast Wednesday. Yeah, so when I did the podcast with Bax on Wednesday, it wasn't even official, although there was a lot of smoke it was going to happen. So you and I have not even talked about it yet. We've seen each other talk about it. Do you like the hire?
I do. It's definitely interesting.
Yes, it is.
Just because, to say he was a mercurial presence, that would certainly be apt. I think it's also one of those things where you have to have a discerning eye because he was captured in the media so strongly that you got to be realistic here. I will say this. I saw some footage of him at the Super Bowl. Operation Improve My Reputation. And he's lost a lot of weight. And he is going to impress people. You're going to see the first interview, and I guarantee you this is what's going to be said. Oh, wow. He's actually got a sense of humor. Oh, wow. He's been put up to be this like crotchety, sweatshirt wearing, almost like homeless guy who's coaching the Lions. You know what I mean? With a pencil, and that's a caricature. Yeah, I know it's kind of a caricature. And he did very little to dissuade the caricature. He kind of leaned into it. But I think when you hear him interviewed and if you do a deep dive on him, he's extremely intelligent. He actually got a lot of Knowles-like characteristics. If you really are blind taste testing him, they sometimes put those two resumes up there and don't tell you who it is. So if Patricia and Knowles are battling to get into the NCAA tournament, they would have very similar resumes. You know what I mean? He's not going to be the lead recruiter out the jump for a bunch of things. That doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't do that. The idea that Ohio State doesn't have access to the same information we do, and then they would make a decision like that, you have to use a little bit of a grain of salt. And number one, as I lose my voice, Ryan Day has earned the benefit of the doubt. Here's what the benefit of the doubt means. When you doubt something, i.e. a hire, you give him the benefit. That's what it means. A lot of people think benefit of the doubt means just going along with what they like. No, it means when you doubt something like this, you then give him the benefit, which is that. So I don't have any issues with it. I do love the idea of creating a lily pad, rehab, Sarkisian, Kiffin-esque spot on the staff where NFL guys are like, hey, I want to be rich, but there was that one thing I did or that happened, and I can go here. Another thing, and this is another, Patricia will not have a talent advantage like he has now at defensive coordinator. He has never had that in the pros.
Right.
No team in the NFL ever, under any circumstances, has the talent advantage that Ohio State has. It'd be one thing if you have Ed Reed playing against other NFL players. He has Ed Reed, and we're playing other teams from Ohio, okay? Not the same. So I love that idea. Now, does it come in and work out? Who knows? Look, a lot of people thought the Chip Kelly thing and the Knowles things weren't working out at times. I got texts about Knowles. I got people who were very frustrated with him at some point in time. So I think I'll go back to my benefit of the doubt. And I also think I really believe this. People have such a negative impression of Patricia now that his Q rating can only go up. You're going to hear him talk and be like, he doesn't breathe fire? I think people will be impressed. He's got a good sense of humor. Younger than you may think. He's legit. He's not an old guy. So he'll be able to relate to the kids, I think, a little bit. I'm optimistic.
I think it's good. We're going to look back on a very good hire. And Dan is my witness here. I talked about this before the show, and I was just about to bring this up. Tyler, great minds, and us as well. Tyler on YouTube. I haven't heard a single good argument from people who don't like this hire. It's the same arguments we heard with Chip Kelly. It's exactly right. It's exactly what Dan and I were talking about before the show. I said, this reminds me so much of what we were hearing about Chip Kelly last year, because people are harping on what he did as a head coach in the NFL. I'm like, he's not coming here as head coach. Chip Kelly is coming here as an offensive coordinator. Everything that people talk about Matt Patricia is like, well, he wasn't a good head coach, really bad head coach with the Lions. He's not coming here as head coach. He's coming here as defensive coordinator. Like, I think it's a really, really, really good hire, and it reminds me a lot of some of the stuff people were saying about Chip Kelly. How'd that work out?
Take this to the bank, Dave. Starting next season, around the time the season gets going, you're going to get a lot of Michigan publications go and interview former Lions about Patricia and say stuff like, oh, he told me this and they did that, and he didn't know what he was doing, and that's fine. It's not applicable. There's other people who commented on Chip that played for him at times before, and that didn't work out for them either. And Chip just doubled his salary and's got a big old ring.
Tripled it.
More power to Chip. And by the way, Chip wasn't even supposed to be the guy. We had Bill O'Brien. The idea that there was some master plan. Come on, guys.
And Chip tripled his salary, man. He's making $2 million here. Now he's making $6 million, highest paid coordinator in the NFL. And yeah, I like if Ryan Day's taking a page out of Saban's book, being the rehab coach, you come here and rehab because Sark, we all know Sark's reputation was in the tank when he went to Alabama. Look at Sark now. So, all right, before I get you out of here, curious what's the dean and the poobah, what are they hearing about Tyler Bowen, the new offensive line? So much stuff is like, we're kind of been glossed over because so much has been happening. But Tyler Bowen, the new O-line coach, obviously he was the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach at Virginia Tech. Seems like a good hire. I didn't know a lot about him. Young guy, 35 years old. What are you hearing about him as a recruiter so far? I know it's really early.
So let's talk about him in comparison with his predecessor, Justin Fry, who, as it turns out, can coach him some offensive line and develop some players. It's kind of interesting. The guy took so much crap, and I doled out some myself, I'll be honest. And then one of the themes of the season is going to be the ability of the offensive line to morph and, still progress under difficult circumstances. I don't think Justin was the all-in recruiter that you want here at Ohio State. No. My understanding, Tyler Bowen, much better recruiter, great personality, and I'm told Virginia Tech's situation was not as beneficial to recruiters as one might think, and that he is going to be rejuvenated and empowered by the ability to recruit for Ohio State. He's got some work to do in state. There's some guys, a good class, and he's got to redouble his efforts there. But I think in the long run, recruiting will be improved. But he's going to have to really do a good job to live up to what Fry did on the field. You're talking about Seth McLaughlin transferred here, won the Remington Award. Mm-hmm. Donovan Jackson moved out to left tackle, kicked butt.
Simmons.
Josh Simmons
into a first round pick. Yeah.
right tackle from San Diego State that was definitely a Fry guy because he was coming from UCLA. And had he not gotten injured, as I told you, he would have been the number 1 tackle taken in the draft. So
he still might be.
It could be still. As we told people in the boarding house, it's going to be the combine is going to be huge for Josh Simmons. As people know, the combine's really set up to get all the people in one spot to go to the doctor. And if his knee checks out and he's ready for April and training camp, I think Josh Simmons, you're looking at most projections have him top 12.
Yeah, our guy Brugler. I'm a little biased because I feel like you didn't discover him. He wouldn't like that'd be a little kind of mean to Dane, but I had never heard of Dane before you started having him come on the Bucknuts Morning 5 a long time ago. And then he kept moving up in the world. Who was he working for then? Because he wasn't with the Athletic.
He was an independent. And also I'll tell you this, the reason I found him is he was on the Dallas Cowboys draft show.
Okay.
He was down in Texas.
Yeah.
Listen, these guys are former scouts who do this. Brian Broaddus is the guy's name. I'm telling you, in my opinion, Brian Broaddus, Bryan Broaddus, does the best job of anybody on the draft. It is Cowboys focused, but they are just scouting players, 150 players. They'll come on and talk about your Buckeyes and stuff, unbiased. It's funny because the Cowboys have an anti-Michigan thing, obviously, because of Taco and Mozzie Smith, and now some people want them to pick Mason Graham and Will Johnson. Who's the DB? Is it Will Johnson? Am I screwing that up?
Will Johnson from Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's apparently dropping and could be there around 12. So unbiased draft talk is what I strive for, and it's good stuff. So
now everybody be nice to people outside of Ohio. Deetra is saying Ohioans are so hard on people and players not from Ohio.
Well, don't worry about it. Now you're from there.
We love Texans. We love people. We love players from Texas.
Also, not your concern anymore. You're from Ohio now.
You're a Buckeye.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a Texan and a Buckeye. We've had a lot of good players from Texas, man.
We love Texans. We love J.K. Dobbins. We love Baron Browning. We love J.T. Barrett. We love Garrett Wilson. Tommy H.
Jeff Okudah was the number 3 pick of the draft. There you
Donovan
go.
Jackson. We love Texans.
Donovan Jackson.
Yeah.
We liked Jaden Fielding in the playoffs. We were not a huge Jaden Fielding guy on November 30th, but stuff happens. Stuff happens.
We love Texans.
You know what else I love about Texas? I love beating Texas in the semifinals.
I love the quarterback of the Houston Texans.
I love the quarterback. That's true. I like the tight end on the Houston Texans.
Sure.
Because he's an Ohio guy. No.
He was.
That's why.
He committed on a tractor.
We went way off the rails here. I love it.
All right.
I love it. All right. We just want to make sure everybody is.
Oh, sorry. No, timeout.
Yeah.
We love Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Love Jackson Smith.
Can't leave him out.
Love Jackson Smith and Jigba. All right. Cowboys? We like the Cowboys? Well,
no pressure, Devin Sanchez now, by the way. That was not like a star-studded list we just mentioned.
Oh, he'll be on that. He'll be on there.
Oh, I'm ready to get hyperbolic about Devin. Let's just wait for a later show.
Devin's going to play a lot right away, so we'll see what happens. All right. Great stuff from Dan. Thanks to all of you. Appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great rest of your President's Day. Go Bucks.